A delegation of World Bank executive officials arrive in Sri Lanka after 34 years.
Public warned of the dangers of the spread of epidemics as floodwaters recede.
Members of the Rajapaksa family and officers of the Rajapaksa Foundation arrived before the FCID.
The Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited invited to make a special statement at the first ever United Nations World Humanitarian Summit.
I also recognize a nation that came together and stood strong despite incredibly difficult conditions.
Chief Minister of the Eastern Province threatens Navy officer.
A very good evening to you. What's happening here at home and across the globe? News First Prime Time is here to tell you. I'm Chaturanga Puarachi.
And I'm Nicola D'Souza. We start off with our top story for tonight. Officials of the World Bank met President Maithripala Sirisena this morning.
12 officials from the World Bank participated in the briefing held in the official residence of the President. The executive officials of the World Bank arrived in the island after 34 years with the intention of examining the progress of the projects implemented utilizing the financial aid provided by the World Bank and to change certain structures of the financial aid facilities provided under conditions. President requested the officials to provide financial aid under flexible terms and conditions to develop the country by uplifting the standards of the citizens for another 4 years. In response, the representative stated that President Maithripala Sirisena will receive a favourable answer as the World Bank will reconsider the conditions implied on income-earning countries. A review on the financial aid received by the World Bank was presented based on the information collected while travelling across several districts.
The Department of Meteorology says that the southwest monsoon condition has established over the country. News First, Joel Outschool now joins us with a comprehensive look at the weather forecast.
Good evening and welcome to the Weather Centre. Well, the southwest monsoon has now been established over the island, and provinces such as the western, northwestern, southern, central and Sabargama provinces have been affected owing to the southwest monsoon. Now, according to the figures of the Met Department, it says that rainfall of about 75 millimeters will be experienced over the island. Now, if you take in an outset, the South Asia monsoon outlook says that Sri Lanka has been listed below normal on this figure. And also we know that the southwest monsoon will be in effect in Sri Lanka and other countries surrounding Sri Lanka from May to September. Let's now take a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours.
These showers are usually heavy during the morning. We can expect a few instances of rain later during the day. Looking at the forecast of the next few days as of now, there are no major threats of heavy rain. But the speciality of this southwest monsoon is that it erupts every now and again. Due to this, during the first week of June, we can expect showers in areas island-wide and strong winds in areas close to the sea.
Kegalle District Secretary Abe Wikrama Wanasuriya says bodies and limbs of 40 persons killed by the landslide in Aranayaka have been recovered.
A total of 59 persons lost their lives in landslides that took place in the Kegalle district, including the area of Bulatkahupitiya. 161 houses were totally destroyed, while 1,350 houses were damaged. 11,494 persons continue to remain housed at 102 safe locations. The Kegalle district secretary announced that land observations are taking place in order to resettle persons who remain in displaced camps. He added that compensation will be provided based on the state circular issues on compensation houses. The collective of persons affected by the landslides in Aranayaka convened a media briefing today.
These displaced camps are gradually turning into detention camps. The issue that we face is over our future in these camps. Are we going to be resettled in the landslide-prone area? We will not allow people of Aranayaka fall into the situation of the people in Mirabadda and Meetotamula. We will leave only after we are given proper solutions.
81 persons from 24 families who have been living in Polapitiya in Yatiyantota for a period of 27 years have vacated their homes due to risk of landslides and remain in the area. These locals point out that authorities promised them alternate housing following the landslide in 1989. However, this is yet to become a reality.
There are 54 line houses and there are cracks that had gone through these line houses from landslides in 1989. If they are still saying that it is not suitable for staying, I humbly request that they are also humans. Why aren't they providing them with land when it's available?
A wall adjacent to a house in Mavatura is on the verge of collapsing on the Mavatura-Kotmale road. Our correspondent reported that the wall is around 70 feet in length. A landslide risk has arisen in the Henakanda area in Moragaha Ahlegoda. Our correspondent reported that a 300-meter area of the mountain had caved in. 150 families living in 50 houses at the foot of the mountain has been evacuated in houses at the Divrampitiya Saman Vidyalaya. Another area prone to landslides has also been identified. This is the Madakanda in Pallekanugala in Amitirigala.
The floodwaters that have devastated thousands in Colombo are now receding. However, a visit to the flood-affected areas highlighted the plight of many who are faced with a new challenge of rebuilding their lives.
Though there is no heavy downpour, intermittent showers continue to hamper effort to rebuild lives in Meethotumolla. And even though the floodwaters that lasted for days are receding, the challenges people face are insurmountable. Meethotumolla was an area that was affected by the massive garbage dump, and with the torrential downpour, the issue grew even more worse. Waste that came in contact with floodwaters are now inside many homes. This did not happen even when the tsunami struck. We can't live in these houses. All the furniture is in ruins. Our children do not have education. All the books are destroyed. We don't know what to do. I didn't take anything, not even my birth certificate. We just left home. All the items are destroyed. Many who returned to their homes after many days are now faced with the task of removing the waste from their homes. This individual returned home after a week. Spending an entire week with the same clothes, this man opened the doors of his house with many expectations. However, his hopes were shattered and nothing in the house was of any use anymore. His belongings, purchased after years of saving, were all destroyed. The floods did not even spare the books of his children.
Our clothes, the refrigerator, the television, everything is ruined. Our children's school items too have been destroyed.
All houses in Meegoda Kulannava are faced with this situation. Electrical equipment, vehicles and even clothes were destroyed by the floods.
Such a disaster has taken place, but there is still no first aid here. There is no proper system for garbage disposal.
The conditions of these houses at present are not suitable to live in. Most of the waste that came from the floods are in the house. The people in these areas are attempting to salvage whatever that is left in order to get up and move on with life. Many persons who left their houses in Polvata, an area which was inundated, returned not aware of what was left in their homes. Many have sought refuge at temporary locations, unable to reach what they used to call home. 1,384 persons have taken refuge at the Vidyavardhana Mahavidyalaya in Vallampitiya. Among them are 457 school children with no way of going to school. Schools in Kulannava remain closed as a majority of them were converted into relief camps. Many who were living in comfort in the commercial capital of the country saw their belongings get washed away by the waters of the Kalani River. The eyes of the people say a story, one where they are waiting for someone to come and support them, rebuild their lives.
With the flood levels gradually beginning to recede, now remains the issue concerning health. Even though there is no threat in the spread of any communicable disease, health authorities warn that the general public may fall victim to such diseases if proper precaution is not taken.
The cleansing process has now begun as floodwaters begin to recede. The silt collected inside homes is one of the main factors that could attribute to skin diseases. Sanitary facilities are a major concern for those affected, as most wells in disaster-stricken areas are now in an unclean and unusable condition.
I'm at the Mabime area in Biagama, which was under water for a few days. The flood water inundated all the wells in the area. This is the state of the water in these wells at present. It cannot be consumed. Therefore, the necessity of cleaning the wells in the area as soon as possible has arisen. The main diseases would be the diseases that are caused by fecal matter mixing with water. When that happens, we know that the water in our wells get contaminated. The septic pits overflow and the water flows into the wells and the cultivations. That is the main concern. The diseases that could spread are diseases like diarrhea, yellow fever or high fever.
At a media briefing held in Colombo today, awareness is created on health tips which could be followed to prevent an outbreak of such diseases. Steps that should be followed when cleaning wells were also elaborated during the media briefing.
You must obtain instructions from the public health inspector. You can also obtain the chemicals needed to clean the wells. Chlorine powder. You have to draw all the water out of the wells and clean the walls of the well. Then you have to fill the well again and mix 2 teaspoons of chlorine powder in a bucket of water and mix it well with the water in the well.
Health officials request that safety measures be followed when cleaning up homes.
Take precaution before entering into the house in terms of security. The walls, the ceiling and the roof can be at an unstable state. There could be unexpected debris like pieces of glass that have been accumulated inside the house. Animals or serpents could be inside the house, so it is important that you protect yourself. Use boots or gloves at all possible times.
Health officials also warn of a spread of dengue with the flood situation deteriorating.
You have to dispose garbage at proper locations. If not, when this ends, we will have the issue of dengue mosquitoes increasing if you do not dispose it and manage it properly.
Sirasa Shakti John Kiel Suvayatra, organized to meet the health requirements of people affected by the natural disaster, on Saturday the 28th of May at the Kalaniya Rajamahaviharya, a public health service initiative supported by the Government Medical Officers Association, the Independent Medical Practitioners Association and many other medical teams. The Public Health Service Initiative will be attended by pharmacists, physiotherapists, medical laboratory technicians, ECG technicians and those affiliated with professions supplementary to medicine.
Our life, our news.
Several politicians today visited areas that were affected by the floods.
Minister Sajith Premadasa toured the Kolonava area today to look into the problems faced by its residents.
Our government has been specially looking into the housing issues faced by the people who were affected by the recent floods. The President and the Prime Minister are dedicated to provide houses for everyone affected. This government has been functioning without any differences among race, religion and caste. As a government, we are hoping to provide assistance in every possible way during this time of need.
P. Harrison, the Minister of Rural Economy, presented dry rations to the Wakkala Pradeshiya Sabha today.
Cabinet made an important decision today. The President had granted permission to grant concessions for water and electricity bills of those who have been affected. As a government, we will do everything that is possible. We will aid in the building of their houses, and we have also decided to grant them with leave.
Daham Sirisena also visited areas that were affected by floods today.
The Capital Maharaja Organization Limited made an official statement at a special session today on Day 2 of the United Nations World Humanitarian Summit in Istanbul, Turkey.
The Capital Maharaja Organization Limited is the only Sri Lanka private sector organization represented at the summit.
Presenting the
The session was officiated by United Nations Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Response and Emergency Relief Coordinator Stephen O'Brien and former New Zealand Prime Minister and Administrator of the United Nations Development Programme Helen Clark.
In the run-up to this summit, there were consultations with more than 900 companies, because it was very clear the private sector wants to play a more active role in times of crisis as partners to governments and to the UN system. There's also the incredible contribution that business can bring at times of crisis. It's people, it's systems, it's technology, it's logistics, it's vehicles, it's finance. And the frequency and magnitude of crises, as we know, are overwhelming the response capacities of governments and international and other organisations. So bringing all hands on deck, including from private sector, to prepare for and respond to crisis is critical.
We need to respond to the fact that the crises are rapidly outpacing the response of the broader so-called system, and we need to become much more a collection of partners delivering to engage. And businesses are affected by crisis, and they of course are the ones that provide the jobs. So it's absolutely vital that businesses are part of what we know want to be responding to crisis. They're trying to find a way of being a trademark for the future in how we should always operate, and it certainly responds to the call of the private sector for this joined-up approach of private sector engagement at all levels and at all stages of crises.
Siobhan Daniel, Group Director of the Capital Maharaja Organisation Limited, which is the only private sector organisation representing Sri Lanka at the summit, delivered a special statement. The statement was made by the Capital Maharaja Organisation representing private sector interests in the region.
I am deeply honoured to bring you greetings from the Chairman of the Capital Maharaja Organisation in Sri Lanka, Mr. Raja Mahendran, its Board of Directors and our staff. At the outset, on behalf of all Sri Lankans here, I would like to remember my fellow countrymen and women who lost their lives very recently to devastating floods and landslides. I also recognise a nation that came together and stood strong despite incredibly difficult conditions. On behalf of the private sector and other partner organisations, I am pleased to announce a commitment to form and lead an alliance for disaster risk management in Sri Lanka. This alliance will provide a multi-sectoral mechanism through which we may collaborate on an ongoing basis to reduce disaster risks, as well as coordinate our response to and recovery from emergencies. We will engage with all stakeholders to ensure our efforts meet the needs of our people. We will link our alliance to other networks globally through the Connecting Business initiative. We will agree to build, strengthen and implement our alliance to be launched after the summit, always keeping in mind that at the heart of everything we do are the people of Sri Lanka.
Several government representatives from around the world, including Prime Minister of Fiji Frank Bainimarama and Deputy Prime Minister of Belgium Alexander De Croo, as well as prominent business representatives, addressed the forum. Some 6,000 participants from 150 UN member states are taking part in the summit, including 57 heads of state or government. Today, Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation Nimal Siripala de Silva thanked the international community for its support during Sri Lanka's time of need.
Sri Lanka is currently experiencing heavy flooding and landslides that have affected nearly 500,000 people. Sri Lanka is thankful for the countries who have extended their support for relief and recovery measures. We believe that our action to implement the core responsibilities should be aligned with the UN development agenda, especially the core principles and objectives that countries have already committed to.
The two-day conference, which comes to a close today in Istanbul, seeks to develop a better response to what the UN has called the worst global humanitarian situation since World War II, with an estimated 130 million people now in need of aid.
Have you ever faced an impossible choice? Like having to choose between medicine or food for your family? Or which one of your children to give the only life vest to?
Millions of people are faced with impossible choices like these every day.
Every day we receive more news, more footage, more facts, and it's hard to know what to do.
But there is an answer. This May, the first ever World Humanitarian Summit is happening.
The Capital Maharaja Organization is proud to be the only Sri Lankan company to be represented at the world's first UN World Humanitarian Summit.
A senior-ranked naval officer had to face an unexpected incident when he was informing the Chief Minister of the Eastern Province that the Chief Minister was not invited to get on stage at an event in Trincomalee today.
Just get out. If you don't know what the protocol is, just get out from this. You have no right to stop me. Who the hell are you to stop me? Yes, no, even you governor, you don't know the protocol. You say, I respect the excellency, the president, of course, much more than you. There is a protocol in this province, and you should know about it. You should know the protocol. You see, I as the chief minister, just get out from it. Just get out from it.
Former Vice President of the D.A. Rajapaksa Foundation and Media Secretary to the former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, Upul Dissanayake, was arrested by the Police Financial Crimes Investigation Division today. He was arrested for means of obtaining money to purchase a land believed to be owned by the D.A. Rajapaksa Foundation.
Upul Dissanayake was arrested under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act of the land and building of former Minister Basil Rajapaksa, located at number 27/A, Orutot Road in Gampa, and believed to be of D.A. Rajapaksa's foundation. When he was produced before the Gampa Magistrates Court today, Magistrate Kavinda Nanayakkara ordered to release him on a cash bail of 50,000 rupees and a surety bail of 500,000 rupees. The case was postponed to the 6th of June. Former Minister Secretary Willy Gamage and Arya Tilaka Dahanayaka, who were arrested yesterday, were remanded as guarantors, failed to appear on behalf of them. However, Gampa Magistrate Kavinda Nanayakkara ordered to ease the 40 million rupee each bail that was imposed yesterday to 3 surety bails, each amounted to 50,000 rupees. Yoshita Rajapaksa, the son of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, arrived at the Police Financial Crimes Investigations Division today. He arrived to provide a statement over the purchasing of a house believed to be owned by Sriranti Rajapaksa and its surrounding lands located down Meedamavata in Mount Lavinia. In order to record a statement over the incidents, Yoshita Rajapaksa's grandmother, D.C. Vikramasinghe, was summoned to the police FCID this morning. Investigations are taking place over the alleged purchase of a land for 50 million rupees by Yoshita Rajapaksa under the name of his grandmother, in line with the investigations taking place over the funding of CSN during its inaugural stages. Lalit Vidatunga, the former presidential secretary, was summoned to the police FCID today. He was summoned to record a statement over the investigations taking place on the release of 20 million rupees from the presidential fund for a surgery on former minister Kehli Rambukwala. The Commission to investigate allegations of bribery and corruption filed indictments at the Colombo High Court against former Minister Rohita Gunawardena for earning 4.3 million rupees through illegal means. Colombo High Court Judge Nisanka Bandula Karunaratne, who took into consideration the indictments, ordered to release the former minister on a cash bail of 100,000 rupees and a surety bail of 10 million rupees. The case was postponed to the 29th. The case relating to journalist Prageeta Gnaligoda was taken up before the Homagama Magistrates Court today. During the previous hearing, the Commander of Army was ordered to present to court through the Aegis Department all details of the vehicles that entered and exited the Akkarapattu camp from the 1st of January 2010 to the 31st of January 2010. Details on the matter were presented to court, and the Aegis Department noted that there was an issue on the credibility of these details. Chief Magistrate Ranga Dasanayake ordered for the Attorney General's Department to continue with the investigations and postpone the hearing to the 7th of June.
The sacred relics that were moved to the Sirasa John Keel's Vesak zone were taken back to the Nelligala International Buddhist Center and the Maligakanda Agrashravaka temple today.
The sacred Agrashravaka relics of the Arhan Sariputta and Mogulana, which were brought from the Mahabodhi Agrashravaka temple in Maligakanda, Colombo, were returned to the temple this morning following religious observances held at the MTV Embassy head office premises.
No matter how harsh the rain is, it is not a problem for us to receive these sacred relics. Whenever the sacred relics are there, the sun will shine. So when I was toiling past the Kalani River today, this came to my mind. Whatever I have been preaching so far will defy me today, because undoubtedly it is going to rain heavily today. And it did rain, but when I came to Buralla and near the Sigosavasak zone, the rain ceased. This is the strength of the sacred relics of the great Arahants.
The Sarvana relics and the relics of the Maharaj Theros, which were brought to the Vesak zone from the Neligala International Buddhist Center, were returned to the Buddhist Center today. A special religious function was held following the receiving of sacred relics at the Neligala International Buddhist Center.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe addressed Sri Lanka's first National Summit on Foresight and Innovation for Sustainable Human Development in Colombo.
We are situated in the middle of the Indian Ocean, where the main shipping routes of the world go across us. Now, what we have to do is to innovate and make use of our location for our development. There's only one resource we have, that's our human development. So we have to then utilize our human resources and our policy of human development, which combined with our location will enable us to innovate and grow fast. Trading in the world today is a bit more complicated than the old days, a global competitive market. So if you are to go across, if you have to create the markets, first move in and ensure that you have sufficient number of free trade agreements. So we are looking at economic cooperation and trade cooperation stretching from the EU up to Japan and Korea to East Asia. That's what we are handling now.
Speaking at an event, Minister of Finance Ravi Karunanayake commented on the visit of World Bank executives to Sri Lanka.
Well, today we had the World Bank, the 9 executive directors coming into Sri Lanka. This is a visit after 34 years, so that is a clear manifestation of the acceptance of the new government of President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. We as a government required from them to try to see that the allocation made to Sri Lanka is increased tremendously. We said there's a change of government, our financial discipline is in, and all what we want to do is to ensure that we basically get a higher allocation for more pro-growth investment. I must say with satisfaction that they responded and they will look into this matter and try to help us in many ways possible. The entire thinking process has changed, which is a significant success rate that is there. And all I could basically say is that financial discipline at the end of the day pays, and we can see revenues going up, costs reduced, and the people need to get the final benefit. And that's the intention of their visit to us. And our job was to maximize the benefit from them.
Well, that's a wrap of your primetime news for tonight. Thank you for joining us. For the Newsfirst team, I am Nicola D'Zoiza.
I'm Chaturang Hapwaji, but before we depart, Nicola, a slight reminder that you can keep track of all these stories and more by simply logging on to www.newsfirst.lk. Take care and good night.
Good night.